Live. We are live. We are live. We're living. We're dying. We're going all around. Oh, got lots of stuff we can talk about today. Although a lot of just repeats of the same news we've been looking at. It's not like we're chock full of brand new stories, but we are chock full of developments on older stories. I was just reading some statistics on Americans' opinions of Trump's handling of the immigration thing. And what I was reading says that only 35% of Americans actually approve of the job that Trump is doing with immigration. The other 65% of the country think he is being completely out of line. And up to 7 out of 10 independents think he's not handling immigration the correct way, which leads me to believe that a lot of the people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 and then voted Trump in 2024, that means 7 out of 10 of those people are not happy, probably, with the decision that they made, which is something to consider, right? Because the independent vote is the real swing vote in America. Most people on the left are going to vote with the Democrats if they're going to vote at all. Most people on the right are going to vote with the Republicans if they're going to vote at all. But there are an abundance of true independents in America, enough to make up a swing vote. And in my opinion, winning over the independents and winning over the people who are more wishy-washy, that is a way more important project than winning specific swing states. So it'll be interesting to see if this... it'll be interesting to see, basically, if this amounts to a sea change in the way Trump is perceived. It'll be interesting to see if this really kind of continues to give momentum to the Maga revolt that's underway right now. Hey, cutie. Well, thank you. What's up, Mel? What's up? What's up? Trump rocks. I mean, I don't know. Lots of MAGAs don't seem to feel the same way anymore. I mean, you might still think that Trump is great, but a lot of MAGAs are not in that mode right now. A lot of MAGAs are looking at what Trump has done with the Epstein files and going like, why has the narrative shifted on this so much? Like, it's like you're seeing in real time people that are otherwise normal people, regular people, but that did vote Trump and that are kind of MAGA. You're seeing a lot of those people kind of see how the sausage is made now. You're seeing them witness in real time what it looks like for their political party to shift narratives, just completely shift narratives halfway through, and for one thing to be true during the campaign and for another thing to be true during the administration. That's something that it is critically important that not just Republicans figure out. We need Democrats to figure that out. We need Republicans to figure it out. We need enough people to figure it out in America to where we can actually put forward a good independent or third-party candidate. Because that, as far as electoral options, that's pretty much our only option. The Republican Party clearly doesn't give a shit about you. The Republican Party clearly is not a party of the people. The Democratic Party is clearly not a party of the people. So with both of these parties being compromised, it begins to look more and more important to find some other outlet for this political energy. Boy or girl? Girl. I love Trump. Like I said, a lot of people are probably still going to be saying that for a while. I'm sure it'll take a long time before the average Republican is like anti-Trump. But I got to tell you, there is a lot of anti-Trump rhetoric going on right now, and a lot of it's not coming from the left. The Republicans are going way harder on Trump than most lefties are right now, honestly. And it's glorious to see. It's great to see a lot of voting Republicans actually realizing, like, wait a minute. The whole time during the Biden administration and the last time you were campaigning, well, both times you campaigned last. I'm talking MAGA people looking at Trump right now are thinking, you had this narrative about Epstein and about the Epstein files and about that being the most important thing, and now you're telling us that that file doesn't even exist? Now you're telling us that that client list doesn't even exist and that Epstein did kill himself when you've been one of the primary people spreading the conspiracy theory for the last 4 years that he didn't? Which, by the way, it's a conspiracy theory, I believe. It's one of those things that, but it just goes to show you how the narrative shifts, right? The narrative shifts depending on who needs to benefit from it. So when when Trump was able to use it as a political dig against Biden, he was all about getting that Epstein file released. But now that Trump is in office and he could potentially be implicated, or some of his rich buddies could potentially be implicated in that client list, he doesn't want to release. And he's going to defend to the death Pam Bondi, who is out there to be the sacrificial lamb, basically. But it's not working. It's not working because Trump is defending her too hard, and so MAGA knows. Not all of them, but a lot of people that are or were Trump supporters are starting to kind of have the veil lifted as they realize, this dude doesn't actually care about the things that he claimed to care about. He's defending this lady and his administration that has decided not to go ahead with releasing these files. He's defending his administration's choice to just pretend that this isn't even an issue and to just go away. I mean, Trump is literally actively telling MAGA to stop caring about Epstein. He's condescending to them so hard. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how pro-Trump rhetoric evolves over the next 3 years. Jump and I will donate. What now? What are you going on about? Be a good sir and turn around. Why? I don't even want to turn around because the shorts I'm wearing right now are fucked up. They've got a big old hole in them, and they're the kind of shorts that have a liner, so it's not like you get to see anything. But they look ratty. They look okay enough from the front, although I am covered in tomatoes because I was just helping my mom can tomatoes, so is what it is. What do you identify as? I don't identify as anything. I'm a woman, if that's what you mean. Don't jump. Well, I'm in a trailer that I'm not entirely convinced was set up correctly. It's just a little office trailer, so it's not like it'd be a giant big deal if it were to tip, but I'm not 100% sure that this trailer was set up correctly when it was put over here, so I don't think I will. I'm guessing little one had an encounter with one of Aunt Kim's cats? Oh, okay. As long as they're not getting after the chickens, that's fine. I don't think they're gonna hurt each other. Or what? Oh yeah, right over here. Alrighty. Sorry about that, y'all. Had to check on something. Anyway, it's that character from Shrek. Yeah, I'm the main character from Shrek. I am. I'm trans Shrek. Haven't you heard? %, not a woman, but it's okay to identify as one. You can have whatever opinion on me you'd like. Frankly, my ideas of my self-worth and my validity don't come from other people, right? It comes from my own presentation and my own ability to find that within myself. And you guys should be the same way. You shouldn't be looking for validation from people in your family and your friend group. Now, granted, I will tell you, if you are confident and sure of yourself and you if you are yourself, you will find validation through that. It's the ironic thing, right? If you go through life seeking validation, you're not going to find very much of it. But if you go through life just being yourself, you'll find plenty of validation. just kind of as like a natural consequences of, just as like a natural consequence of being human, basically. Vaping that Shrek swamp mix, literally, dude, literally. I've got a Shrek branded vape. No, it's not Shrek branded, but it is Shrek colored. Fag. Oh man, dude, I've seen nigga towers, but I've never seen fag towers. Now that, the trolls are evolving, bro. The trolls are evolving. What can you say? Vape bad. Yeah, I've heard. I don't know if you know this, but on the package of every nicotine product sold in the United States, it is required they warn you of that very thing. I don't know if you know that. Why are you like this? Because I was bitten by a pink, blue, and white spider at a weird like research facility somewhere in Manhattan. I was like walking through there with a tour group of other, like assorted autists and degenerates, and there was an enclosure that wasn't properly like maintained, right? And as I was walking by that enclosure, I felt a little ow, fuck. So I brushed it off my hand. And I was like, okay, whatever. But as I got home that night, I went to sleep, and then when I wake up, I've got like bangs and I've got like long hair and shit. And I had like my entire wardrobe was now feminine and shit. And I was like, at first I was alarmed and I was like, oh shit. But the more time went on, the more I was like, I can learn to live with this. This will be fine. And now I'm super happy with it. By the way, that's a joke. Spider-Gwen, yeah, exactly. Exactly how you just made that story up is exactly how you are self-believing that you are a woman. Man, some people write comments in here and don't even, like, it's like they don't even process that they're writing something that's completely illegible. I'm sure you're trying to insult me in some way, but you're so bad at writing the comment that I have no idea what the insult was supposed to be. I love it. Stop focusing on yourself and do something for others. Well, it's funny because if we had actually started talking about something political and not just me as a personality, we would be doing something that matters to others. But sadly, I am a chat-reliant streamer, and if my chat chooses to focus on nothing but the fact that I look like a fat, awkward troll, then that's what we end up talking about, you know? It just is what it is. But yeah, I would love to do more things for others, and I like to think that my life is pretty others-focused, you know? I do the things I need to do around my household to contribute to the collective upkeep of all of us, right? But I also do things like advocacy on here, trying to get people to understand different aspects of my belief and different arguments that people make politically and shit like that. I've done volunteer work. I don't currently volunteer anywhere, but yeah, I guess that right now is probably like a period of low productivity for me when it comes to like giving of myself to others. But I've been focused a lot on this channel, and my thought process behind that is that from what I can tell based on my growth, I really do have the capacity to do this as a job. And if that's true, then there's no reason why I shouldn't focus on this to the point where I get to a point where I'm making not just good money, but decent money. That way I can actually afford to do more activism around where I live. Because where I live in Mississippi. So I don't live in a place where there's a whole lot of volunteer organizations. I don't live in a whole lot of, there are places I could volunteer with, but a lot of them would be religious in nature. And I'm not a Christian. I've got a lot of love for Jesus, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a Christian. And that kind of puts me at odds with a lot of the volunteer frameworks that exist around here. Your belief is due to your mental health. It's not reality. I don't know if you know this, but the Mayo Clinic, the DSM-5, and a whole bunch of other medical institutions have established that gender dysphoria is in fact a mental condition, but the optimal treatment for gender dysphoria is gender transition. So actually, when you see a trans person, you're actually seeing someone going through the treatment process for a mental condition, if that makes sense. I appreciate your Trump support. Oh, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm just somebody who recognizes that I'm just somebody that recognizes that while Trump might have some fascistic tendencies, that he is not himself a Nazi yet. And I'm also somebody that recognizes that the average Trump voter is pretty fucking far from a Nazi. you know, and that is honestly the main thing that distinguishes me from a lot of other leftist, like BreadTube content creators, is the fact that I sit on here and try my best to foster conversations with conservatives and other leftists, but mainly the people I argue with ends up being conservatives. I hate you? That's so powerful. Why? What on earth have I done to deserve your hate? Literally, I just sit around in my pretty little browse? Yeah, my pretty little blouse and talk shit about politics. Like, what's there to hate? L. Jordan, 100% L. Jordan. Best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 10 years. Yeah, are you talking about Trump? Damn it. Phoebe, what are your thoughts on Trump's cabinet? I like most of the secretaries. Who don't you like? I'm not a fan of Pete Hegseth. Like, even if we're leaving aside the fact that he's not qualified, just the fact that he's been so fucking, like, literally, Pete Hegseth has been involved now in, like, 2 different leaks of information to the press or to the broad general American public and shit. And so it's just like, at what point do you realize that somebody is not qualified for the job and should probably be removed from it? You know, maybe they got Pete Hegseth under, maybe they've got him in line now. Maybe they've got him on a good, solid, strong rope. But there for a while, Pete Hegseth was like a national defense weak point. I don't know what else to call it. Like, I'm not even a person who believes in America's imperialism. I don't think that we should be off bombing other countries or sending our troops to other countries. But if we're gonna, I certainly don't like the idea of American soldiers dying needlessly because Pete Hegseth's dumbass fucking invited the wrong people to a signal chat. You know what I mean? Just doesn't seem like a very good reason for American soldiers to lose their lives. And so, not a big fan of Pete Hegseth. Outside of that, I really am not familiar enough with enough of Trump's cabinet to know which ones I really, really, really don't like and which ones I'm okay with or whatever. There's just a few of them that stick out, you know? Where did you buy that camera? It looks great. I'm literally streaming from a cell phone. So if my camera looks extra good, then that's just a miracle as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, though, I will tell you, the phone I'm using is a Motorola Edge Pro or whatever. It's the nice Motorola Edge. It's not super new, but the phone I'm using is a Motorola Edge, and this is the selfie cam. So it does have a nice, decent camera. It's not a shitty phone, and it's lasted through a lot of drops and a lot of water contamination and shit like that. So if you're looking for a new phone, you don't want to pay thousands of dollars for it, consider buying a Motorola Edge. Good phone, good capacity, plays games on it when I want to play games, does everything you need it to. Probably the internet. What's wrong? What's going on? What's going on? Phoebe, we're in 360? What do you mean? They say the camera adds 40 pounds? Yeah, it probably does. Probably does. Luckily for me, though, I'm quite comfortable with being fat. Especially because I've been losing weight. So now that I know I'm on the right track, now that I know that I'm making more or less the right decisions with the things that I put into my body, I'm not really worried about the fact that I'm fat. I know that I'll keep losing weight until my body reaches some kind of natural equilibrium, and I'll probably feel a lot better than I do right this second, because I know I feel better now than I did, say, this time last year. So it's your weakness infecting the internet connection also? Well, I've been sitting here for 18 minutes now arguing with conservatives and various degenerates from across the right. So if I'm weak, I've apparently got a lot of fortitude for a weak person. By the way, there's 122 people in here. If half of you guys liked the stream right now, we would have 61 likes like that. And that is also the best way you can support the channel. It's the best way that you can tell YouTube to send more people my way, which increases the quality of your viewing pleasure by increasing the amount of people interacting in the chat. So please hit that like button. It's very simple. Just double tap your screen or somewhere in this little side column. Also, if you want to send a super chat, that is the second best way you can support the channel because that's direct monetary support. And it's also a great way to make sure that your chat gets read. If you've had a question that you feel like hasn't gotten answered for some reason, I always read every single super chat as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Do you like Trump? I bet you like him. No, I'm not a Trump supporter at all. Although I do recognize that a lot of people who voted for Trump are not necessarily the fascist Nazis that the Democrats make them out to be, or that the liberal left or the left in general makes them out to be. I recognize that Trump supporters are far more reachable than a lot of people in my position have given them credit for, which is why I spend so much time talking to them. I'm not a Trump supporter by any means, but I am a supporter of human conversation that leads to better outcomes. What's up, Pig Mercy? Is this being filmed using an 8-track player? Yes, actually. Hold on, let me make sure. There we go. No, it's not being, like, honestly, the camera quality is okay. It's just that my internet connection is not great, you know? My internet connection is data only right now, so it kind of goes in and out, and it switches from towers, and goes to 5G plus, to 5G, and that kind of shit. Which does cause a little bit of buffering and a little bit of granularity. That burp was too manly to pass as female. Oh man, I wish I had video of my aunt burping. Because my very cisgender aunt burps way louder than I do. Way louder, dude. You should see her. You should hear some of her burps. I need to get that on video one of these days and just, like, title the video, like, women don't burp loudly. And just show my Aunt Candy, like, quieting a whole room. She used to do that shit at family gatherings, her fucking ridiculous ass. She would, like, chug a soda, wait for it all to bubble up at just the right moment, and then wait for, like, a relative lull, like we'd all be doing karaoke or something at an anniversary party. She'd wait till the next person is figuring out what song they want to do and getting up there and everything, and then she'd just go like, and the whole room quietens down. The whole room, silence. Everybody's looking around at each other. They're like, who was that? And then my Aunt Candy starts guffawing, of course, and so everybody's like, Candy, what the fuck? Why is there a dude in a dress? This isn't actually a dress. This is just a shirt. But I'm also not a dude, so that might explain part of the confusion as well. Imparting wisdom. Imparting. Let me switch to all messages, and hold on just 1 second. Let me turn idiot mode on so that people can... Mainly so the people that actually want to participate in the conversation can be filtered from people who just want to talk shit, or people who their ADHD causes them to, like, literally say shit in the chat even if they have no intention of actually adding to the conversation. I'm sorry, but if that's your intention, this ain't the stream for you. I read my chat. I find it important to try and have conversations to the best of my ability with people that disagree with me. And if you're not interested in contributing to that goal, then I'm sorry, you're just not going to be a very good contributor to the chat. It's just not something I can deal with here. Not because I can't stand insults or anything like that. I can stand plenty of insults. I've been sitting here for 30 minutes watching people talk shit. Like 90% of people have been. That's not the point. The point is people who are unreadable, unoriginal, or uninteresting. If you're either three, I can't have it. I can't do anything with you. But if you can be readable, original, and interesting, then come on, let's have a conversation about whatever the fuck you want. You want to talk about the fact that Jeffrey Epstein has fundamentally betrayed his voting base? Or I'm sorry, you want to talk about the fact that Donald Trump has fundamentally betrayed his voting base by not revealing the Epstein documents and in fact trivializing them and completely changing the narrative? We can talk about that. Do you want to talk about the fact that Trump is now threatening to revoke a U.S. citizen's citizenship because they don't like him? We can talk about that. We can talk about the fact that ICE raids have continued to kidnap thousands of people off of American streets for nothing more than the fact that they don't have the right paperwork when they're asked about it. We can talk about whatever you want. Oh, thank God, there's so much mental anguish being projected. Yeah, I know. It can be really hard to read through these chats sometimes when you don't have idiot mode on. Thank you, Phoebe. You're welcome. No problem. I think Trump is saving it until just before the next election. Oh my God, is that true? Dude, let's just think. Okay, Dean, you might be right. But then how do we explain the fact that he's trivializing it now? Because if he changes the narrative now to where Epstein doesn't matter, all that shit, doesn't he kind of shoot himself in the foot as for using it for the next election cycle? And besides, if Trump is really serious about making sure that his agenda gets pushed through, he should really be like very careful with that narrative. That's why I don't think he's gonna. That's why I don't think that's the plan. I think the reason why Trump doesn't want to drop this list at all is because he knows he's implicated in it, and if he does, what's the word? Censor it, basically. If he censors the document so that neither him nor any of his rich buddies are on that list, the American people are going to know this is a heavily censored document. Why is this so heavily censored? Why are there so many names blacked out of this? Why can't the American people know who all was on this list? But if he releases an uncensored version, him and his rich buddies are going to be on it. So he is in this catch-22 situation where there's no win for him. Literally, there's no win for him. This might be the thing that does end the Trump administration. This might be the thing that ends Trump's chances of being able to actually maintain any sort of like momentum throughout the next 4 years. You know what, girlie, I never met you before, but the take about comments here is totally queen coded, so you're pretty cool in my book. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes. Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, dude can be gender neutral. Some people definitely don't use it in that way. Some people do try to use it as a dig against trans women or whatever, but I feel like most people that use dude use it in a gender neutral way, you know? I bet. Do you actually think Trump's base will actually care? If so, why? To me, they only really believed it when Biden was in office. Here's my thing, right? So far, MAGA has been revolting against this. So far, the response from MAGA seems to be a sense of betrayal. If you look at what MAGA people are saying in response to Trump's tweets, if you look at what people are saying like in street interviews and polling and things like that, the worm is turning on Trump. And so that tells me that there are already a few MAGAs who have decided that this ain't it, that Trump does not have their best interests at heart, et cetera, et cetera. There's already a big feeling of betrayal. So will all of his supporters see it? No, certainly not. I mean, there's still people who think Obama was the best president ever. You know, there's still people who think Obama was the best president in American history because he got rid of pre-existing conditions. They don't look at the fact that he increased the drone war. They don't look at the fact that he began family separation as a policy. They don't look at the fact that he failed to protect people as a Democrat, the party that's supposed to protect people. So if that's true of somebody on the left, imagine how true it's going to be of somebody on the right. There's always going to be some crazy, kooky people that are saying that Trump was the best president we ever had and that all the attacks against him were just fake news and that he actually did release the Epstein files and we just didn't get to see it because this, that, and the other conspiracy happened. There's always going to be people who are able to find whatever narrative they need to continue believing in their idea that Trump is correct and ultimately right about everything and that he's like he can do no wrong. But most people aren't like that. Most people are way more reasonable. Most people are trying their best to navigate a world that has become pretty post-truth. And I think a lot of those people are narratively driven, but I think even that narrative can be contradicted sufficiently to get people to understand the scam that's afoot, I guess. He's the most popular president of all time. The polls prove it. CNN had to admit it. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. The most popular president of all time, as far as I know, was FDR. I mean, there's only one president that was elected for more than 3 terms, and that was FDR. And as far as like the polling on Trump goes, I mean, I was just reading some data that talks about when it comes to satisfaction on just Trump's immigration policy, 65% of Americans do not approve of Trump's immigration policy. 65% of Americans polled do not agree with Trump's immigration policy. Only 35% agree with it. That does not, to me, say most popular president ever. That says overwhelmingly unpopular, at least on the policy level. That's BS? No, that's 100% truth. That's 110% truth. Proof? What was the fucking, I think it was a Reuters poll. I don't remember what the polling organization was, but if you search what do Americans think of Trump's immigration policy, you'll find the fucking statistics that I'm referencing. He's not the most popular. Also, Reagan is confirmed the most popular. That might also be true. Reagan was incredibly popular during the time when he was elected. It's one of the reasons why he was able to win re-election and shit. The conservatives kind of swept to power during the 80s in just a wave of a big wave of cultural shifts and political shifts and everything, and that brought with it a lot of presidential popularity for Reagan in particular. So it would not surprise me if Reagan was the most popular president since polling has began. Now, I would argue that FDR was the most popular president of all time, given the sheer amount of support that he enjoyed among the American working class. But I'm sure that, there's probably some things you could look at that might disagree with that. Ultimately, I think it's not super important as to who's the most popular, What I know for a fact is that Trump's policies right now are unpopular right now. I know everyone in the South was okay with this policy, and that's more than 35%. That's not true at all. I live in the South. I live in Mississippi. I'm not okay with it. My parents from the fucking South, not okay with it. I know very, very few people around here that are actually fully in support of Trump's immigration policy now that they've seen it. Now that they've seen it at work, and now that they've seen what it actually looks like when this policy is being enacted. I know so many people already who have started to turn on Trump, specific policies of Trump. Now, it usually takes a few of those for people to start turning on Trump as a politician, or for people to start turning on any politician as a character, as an entity. But the cracks are starting to form already. I mean, you got to realize, Trump didn't even win the South on, he did not, win 100% of electoral votes in the South. That's just retarded. I mean, that's just stupid. Trump won majorities in the South, but even in Mississippi, 35% of people voted against them, So, and you talk about states like California, New York, fucking Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, Oregon, Washington. You talk about the West Coast, the Northeast, shit tons of those places voted against Trump, and shit tons of those places have way more people in them than any part of the South does. I mean, California by itself probably has a higher population than most of the Deep South. I know for a fact it's got a higher population than Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas combined. The same poll said Kamala was going to win big. I'm not a Kamala simp, so... We're allowed to disagree with this? Who said you weren't? Who on earth said you weren't? You know who is trying to tell people who can't disagree with who? Donald Trump, by telling Rosie O'Donnell that he's going to revoke her citizenship for being such a harsh Trump critic. So you that got him elected? That's not what the exit polling says. It's not what the exit polling says. The exit polling says that the Democratic Party's absolute refusal to do anything about the genocide in Gaza, and the Democratic Party's absolute refusal to do anything in terms of economic policy for the American people, are the primary reasons why Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I'm sorry that exit polling does not align with your bigoted ideas about trans people, but there it is. What's your thoughts on age of consent? None. I think it's fine where it is. Slightly prefer him. Thoughts? I think a lot of people are in your position, man. I think a lot of people were looking at the two parties that they had an option to vote for in 2024 and said, I could either vote for a Xanny-addled drunk bitch that has been a cop for the last 10 years of her career, who is totally hypocritical in terms of the policies that she now claims to support, if you look at her record. Or I could vote for a dude who pretty much does what he says he's going to do, and occasionally falls flat on his face. I mean, he doesn't look very good for the country. He's kind of a moron, but, I mean, he's not Kamala Harris. And we get the exact same logic from the other side, too. We get the exact same logic from the other side, dude. I know Kamala Harris is zanned out, and I know she can't struggle her way through a sentence, and I know she's a war hawk about Iran, and I know that she's a war hawk when it comes to the Middle East in general. I know she's a war hawk when it comes to Russia, but, I mean, she's not Donald Trump, so you gotta fucking elect her. And we get that same stupid bullshit from our side. And that's why people that feel That's why people that feel dissatisfied with both parties, that are like, none of these really match my fucking preferences. That's why people like us need to just start an independent movement. Gather around some fucking politician that actually has beliefs that the American people believe in. Shit like universal health care. Shit like student loan forgiveness. Shit like infrastructure renewal and increase in public transit funding. I greatly appreciate your view on this. Nobody is honest about Harris being a puppet and a moron. Oh, dude. Some people are, but you have to go to the pretty far left to see people being honest about it on the left, you know? The fact of it is, Kamala Harris is not a fucking liberal politician. She's a fucking Republican in a blue tie. The fact of it is, Kamala Harris is not some crazy far left, I'm going to save the world type. She is a symbol of the continued a symbol of the continued might of the status quo. She is a symbol of its continuation. She is a representative of that. She is a representative of billionaire interests. What is even funnier is that I fully agree with you as a centrist Christian man. I mean, that's the thing. It's not that funny to me because I recognize that I might be a trans woman, you might be a Christian cisgender man, but that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation. That doesn't mean we can't talk. That doesn't mean we can't find common ground. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about things where we agree. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about things where we disagree massively. We can even get passionate about it and we can still come and have a conversation the next day. That's the beauty of being a human being who decides other people are allowed to be wrong, in my opinion. Other people are allowed to have mistaken ideas. Other people are allowed to have their opinions, however wrong and not based in reality those may be. And you might think that about me, and true tolerance is allowing each other to be that and still asking for one another's perspective. That sort of thing does way more to save the world than any amount of voting fucking D is ever going to, or any amount of voting R for that matter. If you think you're going to save the world by voting Republican, I don't care what world you imagine, it's probably not the world that the rich bought and paid for fucking politicians in the Republican Party want to see. And that's true of the Democratic Party too. So when are we going to give up this fucking uniparty? When are we going to give up this uniparty that serves us nothing but tepid horse shit all day long, years and years and years and years, decades in the making? Facts, I'm definitely saying subscribe. Well, thank you. What about climate change? Has everyone forgotten about it? Pretty much, Dean. It's not even brought up as a fucking policy anymore. Nobody talks about it. I am always knocking over my fucking coffee in here. I don't know how I managed to do that, but it seems like twice a week at least that I knock over my coffee. Anyway, it does kind of seem that way, yeah. It doesn't seem like people talk much about it. It's not been a major issue, but of course it's not a major issue during a Republican presidency. It never is. At least not among the average American, right? Why are people fleeing the blue West Coast and the blue Northeast to red places like the South or Central America? Honestly, a lot of that fleeing isn't happening, but what if it is happening is, well, number one, a lot of it's just being made up for by people fleeing the South and these more red states for more liberal areas. This sort of interchange happens all the time in America. It's nothing new. It's nothing that Trump has anything to do with. It happens all the time. And I think a lot of it is being driven right now by economics, less than it is politics. Some of it's driven by politics, I grant you, but a lot of it's driven by economics. I know a girl that lives down here in Mississippi who moved here, her and her family moved here from New Jersey. Now she's quite a bit younger than me. She's like, I'll be 27 this year. I think she just turned 21 last year, I think. So, goddamn, she's probably already 22. Anyway, and like she moved up here with her family and everything like a year or two before we met. And her family moved down here not because of the politics, because they're all pretty fucking far to the left. I mean, this girl that I'm talking about, her name's common enough, so I can just say it. Her name is Sam. And Sam was pretty far to the left of most people that you would think of when you think of people that live in the South. And the reason her family came down here was because what got them a pretty, like, lower middle class life in New Jersey was able to get them a super fucking ritzy life down here. So economics drives a lot of this immigration trend right now. Just the fact that you can get shit so much cheaper down here in the South than you can in a lot of blue states right now. No, not taxes. The cost of living. The taxes aren't the thing that's making it unlivable. It's the fucking cost of living. It's the fact that gas is $8 a gallon in California when it's fucking $2.60 here in Mississippi. It's the fact that rent can be like $3,000 a month in some places in California for something that ain't even that good. And $3,000 a month down here gets you a mortgage on a fucking mansion. That's it's cost of living, my friend. It's got nothing to do with taxes. The taxes aren't that fucking different. People, that's the fucking thing that gets me about it, right? Yes, are there some southern states that are now starting to eliminate state income tax? Sure. Yeah, it's happening. But before that, and for a long time, state income taxes weren't all that motherfucking goddamn different between the South and the West Coast and the Northeast. It's literally a difference of a few percentage points that was made out to be this giant big difference mostly by Republican politicians that wanted to continue winning elections in the South and occasionally wanted to use it as a national issue. But the actual difference in taxes, I've lived in Massachusetts. I lived in Massachusetts for 6 months. So I know for a fact what the cost of living difference is like between Mississippi and a place like Massachusetts. And I didn't live in like a cheap area of Mass either. I didn't live in some like, well, I guess probably the Berkshires aren't as expensive as living in like certain places in Boston. I know there are more expensive neighborhoods in Boston itself. You know, there's some of the most expensive zip codes in the U.S. are in Boston, you know. But, you know, I didn't live in like a super fucking rundown area either. I lived within walking distance of, I lived within walking distance of both Mass MoCA and what was that fucking college called? MCLA. Massachusetts College for Liberal Arts. Yeah, I lived in walking distance of both of those. I basically lived on campus of MCLA. I didn't go to school there or anything, but the apartment that my friend got that I joined the lease of, that apartment was like, I don't even know. I'm not that good at judging distances within cities. I would say like 500 feet is how far you had to walk from our front door. Well, maybe not 500 feet, but maybe like an eighth of a mile to get to like the first, you know, layer of, actually no, because I'm forgetting that we actually did, like the street we lived on was shared by some Mass MoCA buildings. So I'm actually giving y'all fucking wrong information. Yeah. So, but point is, I've lived in a place that's very walkable and expensive, but like, you know, and I've lived in places that are more like Mississippi is, you know, and Mississippi is a place that, like, you still end up paying. Now, granted, this has changed now, okay? Disclaimer, Mississippi has gotten rid of the state income tax. I think it's for all tax brackets, but it's being phased out slowly. So the tax rate's going down every year until it just dries up, which I don't know how the fuck they expect to fund state infrastructure or necessary projects in the state or things like that. But I guess we're going to figure that out. But for a long time, you would pay income tax in Mississippi and, you know, not see that go to anything. So I guess maybe it's a good thing they're getting rid of the state income tax here in Mississippi, because it's not like they're using the taxes for anything. Clearly the taxes are just being used to enrich politicians and their rich buddies. So yeah, maybe it's good that the well dries up. Maybe it's fucking good that the well dries up. Look around, look at the fucking roads around here, bro. Go look at some roads in Mississippi. Go fucking look. Now, I will tell you, our education system has improved tremendously over the last 20 years. When I was in school down here, we were fucking 50th in the nation. When I was going to school down here, we were fucking 49th to 50th in the nation consistently for every year I went to school down here. It's a miracle that I'm as well educated as I am. It's a miracle that would not have happened if it weren't for my incredibly loving parents. Sorry, I haven't read the chat in like 20 minutes, and my viewership is suffering because of it. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It really does help. This dude lives in his own world. I would really appreciate it if you would stop calling me a dude, considering that you're like misgendering me in terms of like pronoun usage as well. That's not something I normally like police a whole lot, but you've been in here for like 20 minutes and it's really like just like fundamentally disrespectful. And I haven't been disrespectful to you, so I'd appreciate it if you would stop being disrespectful to me. We all live in our own mind, but share the world. Exactly. That's a way better way to put it. Everybody lives in their own head, but we all have to share the world insofar as that exists. We are beings of psychology, my friend. What kind of music do you listen to? I listen to a lot of folk punk. I listen to, oh, you guys can't even see my guitar in the background. I listen to a lot of folk punk. I listen to a lot of regular folk. I listen to a lot of like 80s pop and classic rock and indie kind of alternative. I don't know. I listen to everything. The more I list off, the more I realize I just kind of listen to everything. I don't listen to like every single thing, but I listen to pretty much everything, you know? It's very rare for me to find a genre of music that I just don't like outright. The ones that come to mind, it would be way easier for me to tell you what kind of music I don't like. So I don't like, for example, pop country, like bro country and rap country, that kind of like thing is not my thing. Just not, it's grating to me, grating on my ears, so I'm not a big fan of it. But when it comes to, I really can't think of any other music. Well, okay, gospel. Not a big fan of most gospel music. Now, every so often, you'll find a worshipful song that's actually just a good tune, but it's not that common, you know? Like, okay, I don't know if it would be considered a gospel song, but there's this old Irish song, you know, that's about being converted. Ho, ho, glory, oh, now I'm the Lord's disciple. Oh, oh, glory, oh, hand me down my Bible. I like my living and my living hard. May the Lord save my soul. My salvation was the turn of a card when my heart was as black as coal. But everybody's got the right to go wrong. It's just a jaunty tune, you know? It's a jaunty tune. And the fact that it's got an underlying Christian message doesn't bother me because it's a jaunty tune, you know? Same thing with the Master's Call. When I was just a young, when I was wild and full of fire, a youth of 17, but full of passion and desire, I ran away from home and left my mother and my dad. I knew it hurt them hope. I knew it hurt them so to know their only child was bad. I fell in with an outlaw band, their names were known quite well. How many times we robbed and plundered I would never tell. This sinful kind of living leads only to a fall. I learned that much and more the night I heard my master's call. One night we wrestled cattle, 1,000 head or so, and started them out on the trail that leads to Mexico. But a norther started blowing and lightning flashed about. I thought I heard them calling me. I thought not 20 yards from me. And left there was a giant cross where once there was a tree. And this time I knew I heard a voice so sweet and strange, a voice that came from everywhere, a voice that called my name. Yeah, that's a beautiful song. I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck if it's a cowboy fucking conversion song. It's beautiful, you know? Marty Robbins is GOAT. Marty Robbins is a fucking yes. Yes. You're closer to a Republican than a Democrat, but you're born in the South to a good family, so it's no surprise. Most conservatives don't care about identity politics as long as they're not being... Oh, well, you've got me all wrong if you think that I don't care about identity politics. I just think that it hasn't been... I don't think that it's been very, I don't think it's been very productive in terms of a policy for the left. No, I would consider myself way farther to the left than your average Democrat. I take exception to being allied with a Republican merely, or being allied with the Republicans in general, merely because I'm willing to talk to them and willing to like willing to like find common ground where there exists some. Because the fact of it is, there are people who call themselves conservatives who like people will call themselves whatever the fuck, but ultimately people's positions are that's more determinant of whether or not you're going to get along with them politically, so to speak. And people can call themselves conservative and have all kinds of economically liberal ideas. They can call themselves conservative and have all kinds of fucking socially liberal ideas. There are people that call themselves like, oh, I'm fiscally conservative and socially democratic or something like that, which is basically to say, I'm a neolib, you know? But they vote Republican more often than not because of the tax breaks. And then they, you know, like have this other set of policies that they follow when it comes to engaging with their local community or whatever. And like politics are way more nuanced than people want to give them credit for. But when it comes to my personal philosophy, the more you listen to me, the more you'll hear crazy radical leftist shit coming out of my mouth. Shit like we need a universal healthcare system now. Shit like we need infrastructure renewal with an eye towards public transit now. Shit like we need a high-speed rail system in America now. Shit like we need student loan forgiveness and free higher education right now. Shit like we need a food stipend right now. No more food stamps, but a food stipend, universal to everybody, based upon the number of people living in your household. Now call me a Republican again, please. Vote none 2028. Vote none. Vote none. Vote none. I'll vote for the none. I won't vote for Trump, but I will vote for the none. I really don't get why someone would be Democrat or Republican. Like, doesn't being independent make more sense? Vote for the better president, not the shitty one, because, oh, dude, I 100% agree with you, Jack, and I think a lot of Americans do. The biggest majority in the 2024 election was not Republicans or Democrats. It was fucking eligible voters who refused to vote. Literally. The biggest fucking majority group in the 2024 election was not people who voted Republican or Democrat. It was people who didn't vote at all, who could have. And that says something. That says a lot of people are tuned the fuck out because they don't see representation in either of these parties. Because it makes way more sense to be independent in terms of national level politics, because right now, neither of the parties that exist really represent the concerns of the American working class person. The Democrats are not about massive economic change. They talk up a big game, but then they do nothing about it when they get in office. They just let people obstruct them to death, rather. They let the obstructionists get in the way. They make excuses the whole time. They pass a fucking half measure of a quarter measure, and we end up with a 1/16 of what we should. That's not good policy. Your ability to call out Harris and not blindly hating Trump places you further right than your average Democrat. Oh, well, like, maybe on some people's scales, that's not what I use when I'm talking about the Overton window in my mind. That's not the scale I use, right? When I'm determining whether or not I consider someone more left or more right, I'm looking at their economic policy and their social policy. So I'm thinking, how do they feel about economics? And this is also, you'll see the same framework reflected in a lot of political compasses as well. You'll see people being delineated along lines of like socially liberal or socially conservative, and economically liberal or economically conservative, because one can be one or the other, or any arrangement thereof. And that's what I use to determine how far to the left or right that someone is. But ultimately, left and right aren't exactly for reasons that we've been illustrating. Right and left aren't entirely useful designators for political minds. In my opinion, left and right basically exist to, they're like shorthand, right? Left and right is basically political shorthand for all of these different ideas that we've been talking about. But when you get right down to it, you realize that there are more axes than merely the left versus right axes, and that complicates the subject. People need to stop equivocating Democrats as a real leftist movement. I 100% agree. The Democrats are They are a project of economic conservatism, and they only fucking use social liberalism when it suits them. The Democratic Party was like literally against gay marriage until the average person gave a fuck about it. The Democratic Party was not fucking some big fucking like, how do I put it? The Democratic Party was not some bastion of civil rights. Um, the Democratic Party was not some bastion of civil rights when it came to queer people back in the early 2000s or during the 90s. It took select Democrats coming out and putting pressure on the broader Democratic Party consistently and over the period of years. And it took them, those individual Democratic politicians who did decide to take up the issue of queer rights, it took them convincing their constituency too, and convincing their constituency to be advocates about it. And it took advocates that didn't give a shit about those politicians that decided to be advocates for it anyway, because they knew that that was an avenue of oppression that needed to be undone. But that's the thing, is that the Democratic Party is not a party of the people. It's not some bastion of civil rights that is always going to act in favor of people's right to protest and right to free speech and right to expression and all of that. That is not just something that you can take for granted with the Democrats, because they will betray us. They've shown it time and time again. Like, the Democratic Party's interests are like obvious if you know anything about American politics. You can look at the Democrats and tell what brings them votes and what gets their vote in Congress. It's money. They are as bought and paid for as the Republicans are, and maybe that was different at some point in the past, but from what I can tell, it really wasn't. From what I can tell, politicians on both sides have been fucked up with corporate money from way back. So that's why we need an independent party. We need to, like that person said, stop equivocating the Democrats with a leftist party, because the Democrats are not left. The Democrats adopt the aesthetics of revolutionary leftism when it suits them, and then abandon the revolutionary left when it is no longer useful to them. When the revolutionary left starts to criticize the DNC, starts to criticize the left from the left, starts to criticize, or not even the left, but when the revolutionary left starts to criticize the Democratic establishment from within the left, we get dropped. They get dropped, and it's back to bickering for another 2 or 3 years for us, and it's back to brunch and tea time for them for another 3 years, until a Republican comes along to sweep another fucking landslide out from under a Democrat, because they're just too fucking inept to get anything done. They love to talk a big game and then deliver nothing. Such as Bernie Sanders being used as a blanket to cover and smother any actual leftism rising in the politics of our country. I think Bernie's first run was useful in terms of getting people to realize the transfer that's afoot when it comes to the wealth of the poor constantly being redirected to the hands of the rich. I think Bernie Sanders was pretty instrumental in increasing the average American's broad political economic awareness. But when it comes to any actual uprising or anything like that, yeah, I mean, Bernie had an opportunity to create an independent candidacy. When he got fucked by the Democrats. Bernie had the opportunity, when he got fucked by the DNC, when he realized live that that's what was happening, he had an opportunity. He could have come out and said, I'm not about this. I don't think this actually reflects the will of the people, so I'm going to continue to run as an independent, and I hope that you all who voted for me will continue to support me as such. And do I think it would have split the votes of the left? Yeah. But you know what? It wouldn't have mattered, because Trump won anyway in that election. So let's get real. Let's consider that that will probably be the case in a future election, that some fucking fascist Republican's going to rise up, and there's going to be some strong leftist that opposes him, and the DNC is going to attempt to smother their campaign. The DNC is going to attempt to smother their campaign, and it is up to us whether or not we pressure that politician into continuing to run as an independent. If we collectivize and say, we're voting him in anyway, we're writing him in. Because I'm telling you, a movement like that, strong enough, would convince independents to vote that way too. And independents are what won Trump the 2024 election. Independents are what won Joe Biden the 2020 election. Independents are integral to election results and victories. These men on YouTube worse than middle school girls with these emotions in the comments. Jack, I can't hurt you. No, dude, people get crazy in the comments. It is what it is. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. It really does help. And by the way, we have absolutely no super chats today. I'm shocked, but that is a great way to support the channel, and it's a great way to make sure that your question gets answered. If you've been asking it and I haven't been able to see it because I've been ranting or whatever, send a super chat, because that's a great way to make sure your chat gets read. I grew up Southern Baptist, and I'm dating a Christian pastor who supports LGBTQ+, because you should love your neighbor and not cast judgment. A lot of people surprisingly use that as a two-way hate. Oh, wait, yeah. Dude, people use that as a way to hate 100%, and there are a lot of people who don't seem to recognize the inherent contradiction in being hateful people, but also professing the name of Jesus. Jesus was not a hateful dude. Jesus was not somebody that judged people for their actions in life. Jesus was a person who hung out with sinners in hopes that they would learn from his example, basically. And that's something that the Christian is called to do too, but a lot of Christians don't want to follow that obligation. Excuse me. Hey Phoebe, gonna be a guest on Low Energy Video show in about an hour. I'm just popping in to say hey while I'm snacking a coffee and a beer for the show. Nice, nice, nice. Hell yeah, coffee and a beer. Hell yeah. That sounds pretty cool. Low Energy Videos. I don't know who that is, but that sounds cool. I can't wait to start this like call-in show thing that I've been thinking about. I need to put that into like a document and get like the framework of that written up. But anyway, I think it's actually great Republicans are starting to move away from Trump, and sure there's still some MAGA, but a lot of Republicans are starting to stop supporting Trump's, and that's great. Yeah, 100%. And that's what I was talking about earlier before we kind of got off track, is that people can say, you know, like they're still supporting Trump and everything, and I imagine that'll keep happening for a long time, but it's just truth that if you look at the fucking polling, if you look at the polling right now, and you look at the statistics and you get the general vibe of people, most independents are not for Trump's immigration policy, and most Americans in general are not for his immigration policy. So it's overwhelmingly represented amongst independents, but it's also just your average everyday American that's not a big fan of that's not happy with what's going on, because they see how fascist these fucks are being. They see how this shit's just happening in broad daylight in the middle of a city, unmarked vehicles just showing up with fucking from all directions, fucking agents all masked up and shit, running into these buildings, taking people out. No due process, no Miranda rights, none of that shit. People are finally starting to see that for what it is, but that sort of transition takes a while, and it takes a long time for people to realize that a politician they really believed in is not the person they thought he was. It took a long time for people on the left to realize that about Obama, and a lot of people on the left still haven't. You know, like we are still, to some degree, dealing with the ghost of presidents like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. We're still dealing with their ghosts over on the Democratic side and on the leftist side. I love how Satanists love others. Yeah, they tend to. You agree with the passable argument? Like, if you aren't passable and anyone would question you, you shouldn't use opposite gender amenities like bathrooms, locker rooms, whatever. Passable and anyone would question you. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like it feels exclusionary to me. I guess like I get the idea behind it, but like it just doesn't seem like something that is an issue, considering the fact that I mean there are cis women that can easily pass as pretty masculine on the wrong day. Not just say like I'm just saying, like I'm not trying to be hateful or whatever. It probably sounds like I am, but that's not what I mean. It's just like it seems weird and exclusionary, but I understand where people are coming from with it. I think that's why I think a better option for all of this would just to be to mandate some single person restrooms. To mandate some single person restrooms in places that provide public services and shit. And obligate these companies to provide some kind of space that's not, that's not rife to make people uncomfortable. Oh, thank you for the $1.99. I appreciate that. That's obviously an opinion I heard from Blair. Yeah, I don't know about it. Like, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. I understand where somebody's coming from on that, but at the same time, it feels kind of exclusionary when we know for a fact that trans people of all kinds are way less likely to be perpetrators of an assault in a public place. We're way more likely to be the victims of that kind of thing than we are to be the perpetrators of it. So it's just like, I think trans women should compete in co-ed or form their own leagues. Well, I think that co-ed leagues is a good answer, and that's the answer I've been spitting out because I think it's a good compromise between trans women shouldn't be allowed in sports, period, and trans women should have to create their own league. Because if trans women have to compete in their own league, or if trans people in general have to compete in their own co-ed league, that's just going to be like, well, I guess if trans people in general had to compete in their own co-ed league, it might work a little more functionally. But even then, you're talking about a fucking such a small percentage of the population that you would be lucky to be even able to, like, you could probably assemble some like professional sports level like trans only teams. But you definitely wouldn't be able to for every sport, and it would require a lot of networking within the trans community to find people that are both like high level athletes and going through gender transition. It's just like it's kind of a non-starter of a proposition, just logically. But co-ed leagues are not. There are plenty of athletes who would be willing to compete against trans people and people of the opposite sex and gender of them. There are plenty of athletes that would be willing to compete in a team like that, and I think a co-ed league that had that like a sort of like co-ed hiring procedure and everything would be like a good answer to that. WNBA can't turn a profit, so I doubt a trans league would gain much traction. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying maybe co-ed leagues, but even then, with like, the thing is, professional sports are a money-making game, and whatever makes money is going to be what gets the funding and what gets the venture capital and all that. So, ultimately we can talk shit all day long about what we think should happen in the sports fucking world, but Ow. I hate it when I get a tickle in my throat. Fuck. Did the disgusting BBB get passed? Yes. As far as I know, yeah. As far as I know, the big beautiful bill has been passed and signed into law. And like I said a few days ago, we're just going to have to wait and see what the effects of that are going to be. Because you don't know the effect of legislation until a few years after it's passed, to be honest. Like, you have to wait for things to have their full outcomes. You have to wait for some things to play out before you really know what effects a policy has, largely. Should men be able to go in women's bathroom? Why is this even a topic? This is how dumb this generation is. So trans women are not men. Trans women are people like me that, I mean, if I don't open my mouth, most people just automatically use she, her with me. It's usually not until I reveal that I've got like a somewhat deep voice for a woman that people start mistering me. So, like, I've never gotten a whole lot of shit going into a women's restroom. I really don't even have people look at me sideways all that often. Um, I don't know why people act like this is the biggest deal in the world when people, like, you can just Google this fucking statistics on this. Like, trans people are way more likely to be the victims of the area than we are to be the perpetrators of it. It's just like it's like a non-issue. Just because you said it doesn't make it a reality? Well, don't take it from me. Take it from the Mayo Clinic. You have no basis for that? The Mayo Clinic. Once again. People are already assaulted in bathrooms, but no one cared. Trans people finally got a seat at the table. Exactly. Assaults have been going on in bathrooms for years, and trans people have largely been victims in cases where they've been involved at all. But it's only now that trans people are actually getting more of a voice politically and shit. It's only now that people care about it as an issue. Because ultimately, a lot of these people wouldn't give a fuck about trans people if the media outlets they watch hadn't made trans people into this fucking giant boogeyman enemy that everybody's got to be scared of 24/7. Do you have a stance on hormone replacement therapy for people under the age of 18? Well, I only know of one prominent case that got hormone replacement therapy before age 18, and that would be Kim Petras. Um, in fact, what we're talking about here is sometimes termed the Dutch approach, because there have been lots of other cases of it, mainly in Europe, but Kim Petras is the most famous one. She's actually my age, I think, and or maybe a little bit older than me, maybe. But um, words. So Kim Petras is like, she's been out as trans and she was like really, 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 really little, and has never indicated any regrets about her transition, and seems to be really happy, and she's been really successful in music and everything. And if you didn't know Kim Petras was trans, you would never know Kim Petras was trans, because Kim was able to get hormone replacement therapy starting at 16. She was able to get puberty blockers starting at a younger age than that, so that she didn't go through a male puberty. And she was able to get sex change surgery, I think, when she was 21. So she has like absolutely no regrets about her transition, and also doesn't have a lot of the things that trans women who don't transition until they're older don't have to deal with. And so when it comes to outcomes, the Dutch approach has the best outcomes. And the Dutch approach is, if a kid is trans, you let them get see like a gender therapist and stuff, and you really work out whether or not this is like just a tendency that would affect their fashion choices maybe and their presentation, but that ultimately doesn't require medical intervention, or to see if this is a person who really feels serious discomfort and dysphoria with their body and needs some sort of medical intervention. And in cases where they do need that medical intervention, you provide that medical intervention in the form of puberty blockers starting like right before someone would start puberty, right? And then hormone replacement therapy to allow them to go through the correct puberty when they get older. That's the Dutch approach, and it's got the best outcomes in terms of medical science that we have on the issue. I don't ever think of people getting hormone replacement therapy under the age of 18. People get all sorts of altering procedures and treatments under the age of 18. Yeah, people like cis men and cis young men with gynecomastia will get gynecomastia surgery when they're like 12, 13, 14, 15, and nobody cares about that, even though it's a gender affirming surgery. Literally, gynecomastia surgery is a gender affirming surgery for cisgender men and cisgender boys. Take a vape hit for you? Okay. Get you some of that. That's a medical condition? Yeah, but it's still gender affirming surgery. I mean, being trans is a medical condition. You know, like brain scans of trans people have consistently revealed that trans people's brains usually, like, structurally match closer to that of the gender that they identify with rather than the like sex that they were assigned at birth. It's just an interesting tendency among trans people. And yet another reason why sex and gender are more complicated than people make them out to be, you know? It's more cosmetic than anything, though. Well, I mean, yeah, in the specific case of gynecomastia, it's a cosmetic thing, but it's still like the operative like the thing is the same, right? It creates body dysphoria, it creates gender dysphoria because you've got like a cis boy that's gone through puberty and has grown a set of tits, basically, and he feels like he's like, you know, in a body that he can't, like, he's ashamed of it and it feels gross and weird. He doesn't like understand why he's got this like body part that is way more effeminate that is like his sister has or whatever, and people make fun of him for it at school, and he doesn't feel on the inside like he's feminine at all, so it just like creates this big like mismatch, right? That same mismatch happens with trans people, but it's a bit it goes a bit deeper, right? Because it's our entire body. But with a cis dude that has gynecomastia, they can go through gynecomastia surgery, which is a gender affirming surgery, even though they're not transitioning. They're not transitioning, they're not going from one gender to another, but they are doing a surgery that's meant to affirm their gender identity by getting rid of a part of their body that doesn't represent it. Excuse me. You couldn't take your shirt off or swim in public? I mean, I could, like, if I had a bra on, I could. I have before. Do guys get penis enlargement to feel like less of a man? Oh yeah, that's the thing, right? Gender affirming surgery is something that benefits both trans people and cisgender people. It's just something that trans people usually have a little bit more experience with and a little bit more reason to engage in than the average cis person. But there are plenty of people, like, honestly, there are a lot of surgeries. Any surgery that's meant to accentuate some part of your body that's like a sex-based characteristic is ultimately a gender affirming surgery. Whether you're doing it because you're transitioning or because you want to feel like a sexier woman that's got bigger titties, or more of a man because you've got a bigger dick, or more of a woman because you've got higher cheekbones, or more of a man because you've got like more muscle mass or whatever, or you've got hair where you really shouldn't have any hair, you know, because you're like, that's the thing. Gender affirming surgery is super fucking common. Plenty of cis people get it. It's just that it's been associated with trans people because it's a necessary part of our medical journey for a lot of people. Not everybody, but for a lot of people, sex change surgery is a part of their, and like other surgeries too, like gender affirming surgery in general, is a part of our medical journey for a lot of us. This dude is Antifa? Bro, I ain't heard the Antifa label in a long time. It's been a long time since somebody tossed Antifa my way. Antifa. Yeah, I'm Antifa. What's wrong with being anti-fascist? There's nothing wrong with being anti-fascist, which I think is, I I think the conservatives dropped the whole Antifa thing because they started to realize there had to be like a policy meeting, because that shit vanished overnight, bro. That shit vanished overnight. It's been like a year since I've heard someone call another person Antifa. I think there must have been a policy meeting where high-level conservative politicians and shit were like, maybe it's not a good idea. Where I was like, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe it's not a good idea for us to keep calling other people Antifa like it's a bad thing, when Antifa just means anti-fascist. Maybe we should figure that out. Antifa just showed back up last week. They're apparently responsible for the ambush on the ICE agents. Ooh. Oh, okay, interesting. So some group carrying an Antifa flag, or with Antifa on it, or something like that, or anti-fascist action or something like that. Okay, I gotcha. So they'll be in the news for a while, is what you're telling me. Arrested in charge of attempted murder of a federal agent. How much you bet gets prescribed in the U.S.? Whatever group this was a part of, whatever group they're a part of, how much you want to bet it gets prescribed? Well, can they do prescription in the U.S.? Like, doesn't the First Amendment protect us against prescription? Like, because you can be a part of the fucking Nazi party here in America. You can be a part of the fucking KKK. You can be whatever the fuck you want to be in America, right? What's a good name for the minute of the LGBTQ+? That's a good question. That's a good question. But I think it's going to have to be determined by that group if one ends up evolving, because right now, no such group exists. There are a lot of queer people that are outright afraid of engaging in outright anti-fascist action, and it's sad because ultimately I think a lot of that shit could be effective, but you got to have people participating in it. You can worship whatever, not be whatever. What do you mean? Gay gliders? Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The gay gliders. Because you'll realize you're wrong. What are you even responding to, Raid Barracuda? I'm not in the echo chamber. You can go look through some streams if you example for that. I pretty much spend all stream arguing with people that disagree with me. When Republicans are like, you're Antifa as an insult, I'm like, yeah, I'm anti-fascist, and what are you going to do about it? Yeah, the answer is nothing. On the B, I mean, good luck being corny in this economy. Oh, yeah, well, I managed to be corny without any economic input at all. Nikita sounds like the name of Trump's next wife from Eastern Europe. Kind of does, doesn't it? Well, no, Nikita in Russia is actually a male name, I think. I think it's like a men's name in Russia. Oh. Oh. California knows how to party. California, something, something. I was talking to Jack Horn, but all right, you don't seem like you crash out as soon as you hear something you don't like. Oh, okay. Well, my bad. Misinterpreted comment is being directed towards me. That's why it's best to not argue with other people in the chat. I don't really police it here. I don't ban people for it or time them out or anything, but it is something that you have to engage in cautiously. And it's best if you include their username at the beginning of it so I don't mistake it for a comment that's meant for me. Which I do respect. Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what the project of this channel is, if anything. It's to foster conversation between two sides of the aisle that stopped talking to each other. Fucking fundamentally. We've stopped talking to each other, and it has affected our discourse. It affected the way we're able to communicate. It's affected the way that we're able to do activism. It's affected the goals that we've set as a country. We can't come together on anything because we don't talk about anything. We don't talk about the things that affect all of us. We don't talk about the things that affect people outside of our concern groups. We don't talk to the other side, period, which means we don't get their perspective. We don't consider their perspective as part of our perspective. Our prescriptions don't include some of their prescriptions, and their prescriptions don't include any of our prescriptions. And that has created and that has created this sense of animosity between average Americans that I don't think needs to exist. I think it's something that has been fostered by an environment of vitriol and hatefulness, purposeful misunderstanding, media manipulation. And I think that there are ways that we can fight back against it. And one of the ways that you fight back against it is doing stuff like this, talking to people. What do you think about people who have rogue bang hairs? Hey, shut up. No, I don't know. I guess these must have not gotten cut when I cut the rest of my bangs for some reason. I don't know how they got missed, but I'll have to trim them. Both sides shut out the other. You're not sensitive. Another quality you don't share with the majority of Democrats. Well, you have to understand, though, like, when it comes to, like, Democrats versus the broader left, a lot of the broader left is pretty fucking far from a Democrat. Democrats and their harshest supporters represent a shrinking minority of Americans, you know? They represent a shrinking minority of Americans that more and more people are distancing themselves from, specifically because of the sensitivity that comes out of the arguments that you have with them, the unwillingness to talk that comes as a tendency of the Democratic Party, the willingness to compromise on policy, but the unwillingness to compromise when it comes to actually getting things done within their own party. The elitism, there's the hypocrisy of the party, talking out of one side of its mouth about the negativity of capitalism, certain Democratic politicians and policy heads and things like that, and then doing the work of capitalism, making sure that capitalism remains the system that fucks everybody over. People can't stand the hypocrisy. Even people who don't necessarily agree with the dissolution of capitalism are turned off by the fact that the Democratic Party claims to be, when they're campaigning, well, maybe not outright in those terms, but they will make all of these democratic socialist arguments when they are campaigning, but then they don't actually do any of that shit, and that pisses people off. Even people who don't really agree with the policy say, you know what, at least if they would have done it, they would have done something. And that sort of thing is representative of a tendency on the Democratic Party that I think a lot of people are starting to notice. It's something I started to notice in 2020 and 2021, and it's something that I have only continued to notice over the last 4 years. The Democratic Party is not a party of the people that fights for the interests of the people. It's a party of the elites that fights for the interests of the elite. Now, the difference between me and a lot of Republicans is that I also see the Republican Party as the same exact thing, just from a different direction. I just think they go after a different crowd, but ultimately I think that they're meant to set as many Americans as possible against one another and to prevent any of us from talking about the things that would actually bring real change to this country, that would actually increase our quality of life. What is a better option than capitalism? Honestly, I've heard market socialism touted as an option, and I kind of like the idea of it. I think on a long enough time scale, it would be cool if we had a resource-based economy or something like that, where nobody has to pay for anything and we just get what we need and what we want. And yeah, maybe there's waiting lists for certain luxuries, but there's certain luxuries most people aren't even going to want. I think that's possible. I do think we could evolve as a society towards that, but I think a good intermediary between our current, corrupt and exploitative system, a good intermediary between that system and this futuristic utopia, resource-based economy thing would be something like market socialism, where you've got like where land is passed down through generations, or like held in common by all the people who live in a certain development or whatever, um, and land is not used as like a commercial commodity and things like that, right? Where there's way more um, planning and way more rigid requirements set on businesses who want to build in a certain area, and where they don't get to actually own the land, where they are given a permit to occupy the land for a certain amount of time, and they have to renew that permit. And if they don't fucking follow the laws that they're supposed to, one of the punishments can be the non-renewal of their permit. um, I think a market socialist system that keeps some things within the realm of the marketplace and keeps other things squarely in the realm of like people providing it for the people. I think that would be a way better model than what we've got right now. Now, granted, I think even a market socialist system should also have a widespread array of advocates and people who are working on projects that are meant to expand access to some of the things that even a like market socialist economy might struggle with. Like, for example, um, our our food system right now is kind of fucked up. Number one, we are intrinsically reliant on this idea of giant grocery stores with spread out bins of produce, right? Just endless bins of produce, and you can pick through and select the perfect right ones, and any of the bad ones get thrown out in the back, just gone, wasted, out to the garbage. They don't even get the privilege of being eaten by something, as far as I know, or turned into biofuel or anything like that. They're just wasted. Off into the garbage they go. And that's something that's going to have to change. Even a perfectly socialist economy would have to figure out a way to get rid of that inefficiency. You can be heavily leftist and still be an independent, but a centrist is someone who prioritizes shopping malls over considering homeless people valid. Yeah. Well, yeah, to a degree. Yeah, I think I agree, actually. What historical, fundamentally socialist society can we for an example of one that has been nearly as successful as its capitalist counterparts? I think it depends on your definition of socialism. I think the Nordic countries have had something very similar to a market socialist system for quite a while now, and a lot of those Nordic countries are doing great. I mean, the Netherlands is one of the most livable countries on the planet. It's one of the easiest places to get around, and one of the places where people that are born there are provided for in a way that citizens of America certainly aren't provided for. There's way more access to healthcare in the Nordic countries. There's way more access to rehabilitative care. There are rent controls in many of their cities. There's policies that make sure that it makes sure that this super ridiculously uber poor underclass just doesn't exist. That is not a thing anymore. It uplifts everybody so that nobody has to live in horrible fallen down trailers and shit. I am a centrist. I believe in human rights, but not the ones I see violated every day in front of me. Vote Dem. Yeah. Americans want everything for free rather than the freedom to acquire it. That's where you got me wrong, bud. I want things provided free at point of service, paid for by taxes. See, I don't want private companies to be able to profit off of things like healthcare or people's need to have a house. I think when you put profit in front of people when it comes to basic needs, what you get is a society that deprives people of basic needs if they can't enlarge a rich person's wallet enough to that rich person's satisfaction. That's the system we've got in America. We've got a system where your basic needs are predicated on you being able to line the pockets of a rich person. The freedom to have a place to sleep at night is no freedom at all. It's just a basic human necessity. It's something that's provided for prisoners. Literally. It's something that's provided universally for free to prisoners. But you're saying regular American citizens don't deserve it? But we will still have the luxury of cutting coupons and stopping in 4 grocery stores to budget food for my 4 kids. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, we still have that crucial luxury of American life. Couponing the day away to make sure that you can afford your grocery bill for the kids that you were encouraged to have by the system that discourages abortion. Yeah, something like that. I don't think the freedom to pursue basic fucking necessities human beings have to live is any freedom at all. I think it's something that every society should provide as a baseline. I think it's something that society should make sure that you have as a baseline. Because you don't really see human greatness when human beings are too concerned with just surviving and staying alive to do anything great. You don't get geniuses in a country where all of your geniuses are working at fucking Costco and shit. You don't get massive you don't get massive amounts of people that go to college because they just want to and end up discovering crazy shit that enables us to accelerate even further as a country technologically. If you have a country that makes those people focus on nothing but making sure that they've got a roof over their head and bread to eat at the end of the day, a system like that begets exactly what it's encouraging, which is just obtuse, stupid workers that don't do fundamentally anything to protest against their condition. And I don't think a system like that is something that most people would want to live in. I don't think most people would like a system where people that have to work in factories, stores, and all of the other places that are required to keep to keep every fucking civilized country running. I don't think most people like to think of those people having to just die off out of hunger. It's an imperfect system, no doubt, but it wasn't founded that way. The Federal Reserve has owned the U.S. government since the 1930s. The problem is far greater than our two-party system. Epstein proved that. I mean, I think the problem is greater than the two-party system, but I think the two-party system is a fundamental part of keeping that system in place. Yeah, I think the problems are way more systemic and go deeper than that, but I think that Epstein proved that the two-party system, if anything, he proved that the two-party system is an integral part of keeping that all together. But there's a bunch of other things that have proved that too. Eggs are really expensive, but it's okay. I've invested in some Trump gold coins, so it should even out. Yeah, I'm sure they'll go up with time, as Trump merch tends to do. Can you explain the new flag colors to those of us who don't know? So obviously these are the old colors of the queer pride flag that was designed back in the 80s. These colors of the flag represent trans people, so trans femme, trans mass, and intersex non-binary, and this represents the struggle for liberation of people of color all around the world, especially queer people of color, and the intersection of those fights. I'm just tired of all the illegals coming here to not work, but also take and do all the work. Yeah, I know. you know what? Double narratives like that frustrate me so much about the conservative movement because I just don't know what to do with a person that believes that. I just don't know what to do with them. So you think that Mexicans are coming to steal all the jobs, but you also think that Mexicans are lazy, do-nothings that are not helping the country. They're living off the welfare. They're not helping the country at all. They don't do anything to help the country. But they're also taking all the jobs and doing all the work, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. I agree because Benjamin Franklin himself, on the day of signing the Declaration of Independence, said that having two opposing parties would destroy the national integrity. Melting pot economics, let's go. Melting pot economics. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to me that the founding fathers forecasted this. I mean, the founding fathers were fucked up dudes, had some fucked up ideas, and did some fucked up shit. But you know what? They were also considered enlightened men for their day, and there's a reason for that. Is because despite all their flaws, the founding fathers had some good fucking ideas when it came to how to run a country that actually allows everybody. Now, it didn't allow everybody. That's one of the myths of America, right? Modern America will talk about itself like America was founded on the principle of free and open democracy where everybody gets a vote. No, America was founded on the principle that every white landowning male gets a vote, which was functionally not that different functionally from how it was being done in Britain. But the difference was there had, and I think this is why you still have to consider it kind of enlightened, right? Is because there had class in Britain of people who were not wealthy by any means, but who did own a little parcel of land that had been, they've, or maybe they were wealthier than like your average person or whatever, like wealthier than like a really poor person, but they had this little patch of land that had been passed down to them through the generations, or that they won in a war or something, some bullshit like that, right? And this like landowning class that didn't have a lot of power because they didn't have like some sort of inherited title or something like that had very little representation in Britain, despite the fact that they were quickly becoming some of the nation's uh, mercantilists and things like that. They were like the source of the early bourgeoisie, and so America was, in a sense, founded to give that element of the rising bourgeoisie a place where they would have a vote. Um, but it's, in a way, it's still more enlightened because at the very least now you've got everybody that owns a little patch of land can vote, and if they're, as long as they're white and male, which is, less, I guess, less horrible than just passing the right to vote down generationally, so that power always stays in the same few families. But one of the many myths of America is that we were started as a country that just let everybody vote, and that's just not true at all. The illegal immigration issue has been turned into a Mexican issue. Uh, are you talking about the protests that were happening in Mexico City over the, like, go back to your own country, that kind of thing? Um, Dude, I don't know. Immigration is one of those things that I think America is being really monstrous about it because we have a long-standing record of taking giant waves of immigrants, and like, people in America love to talk about how there's a labor shortage. We're constantly hearing about how there's not enough people that want to work, and there's not enough people that want to work certain jobs, and that we really need to get more people in those jobs and all this other shit. But at the same time, they want to oppose immigration. They say we don't have enough jobs. It's a double narrative, one of the many that frustrate me about arguing with conservative people. And I really think that the optimal solution would just be making the immigration process way easier, reducing wait times, making it way easier and less expensive. Oh yeah, dude. The 15th century French meaning death toll. Yeah, it's not surprising because I know death in French is mort, and it's spelled Mort, right? And gage, I think would be like, yeah, like a toll or something, right? Or like a payment of some kind. I don't know. I'm not French. I'm not French, and I'm kind of stoned. America was a tax haven for inbreds who wanted to prove that they could wear silly white wigs and pontificate as well as any aristocrat in Europe. That I love, of course. That's, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to love that about America. That's great, though. I mean, that's kind of a cool origin story. And that's why we're a fucking. That's why we're a bunch of fucked up weirdos, man. That's why our country is. I don't think we're doomed, but that's why we have so many fucking things we have to sort through and figure out. Is because we're a proud country of people that I do genuinely think have done things a lot better, at least historically, than a lot of other countries did up until like 60 years ago. And it's kind of sad, you know? It's kind of sad to see America's fall from grace. Not to say that we started in an entirely graceful way, but that's kind of the beauty of it, you know? We went from this scrappy little country that, like you said, was basically a tax haven for inbreds that wanted to prove that they could pontificate as well as anybody in Europe, that any aristocrat in Europe and any noble in Europe could not outmatch their fucking love for pomp and circumstance. And I think it's damn, what the fuck was I saying? Oh shit. Fuck. They both came to America legacy and assimilated to our culture, wave American flags, and speak English. What are you talking about? No, I mean, we have no problem with immigration. I'm Caucasian, but my grandmother was born in Germany and my other grandmother born in Mexico. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. They've taken immigration and mixed it with illegal immigration, and we have to understand the difference. I mean, my thing is, I think that we can't prosecute illegal immigration as this big horrible issue when so many fucking American businesses are complicit in it, and when so many American politicians are complicit in it, and when when the American economy is kind of predicated on it, it just seems like a strange issue to tackle the way we have. It seems like a way better answer to the issue rather than tackling illegal immigration and just trying to stop it without changing any bit of our system would be to make the immigration system easier to get through. Make it easier for people to come here. Make it easier for people to get visas and have them extended. Increase the staffing of immigration courts. Increase the staffing along the border to process as many people as want to come in. We got plenty of room. America's a big old country. We got plenty of room. I'm telling you, the Southeast is critically underpopulated. People are fleeing the Southeast in droves. Come fill it with a bunch of Mexicans. I'm down for it. Most, if not all, complicit politicians have been dealt with. Dude, Donald Trump is in the presidency, and Donald Trump was caught paying undocumented immigrants. And not only that, he's not only been caught doing it, he's been known to do it in a lot of his construction projects. Trump's construction projects are heavily dependent on undocumented labor. At least that was the case when he was a real estate developer in New York. So he's complicit. It's much harder to become Canadian. Yeah, but Canada also doesn't have a statue standing outside of it saying, "Give us you're tired, you're hungry, you're starving masses yearning to breathe free," or whatever. You know, like your country doesn't have like a national spirit that's all about come here and make us better with your inclusion. Come here and let your culture fuck other cultures and make babies. Like our country does. Our country has an obligation to the immigrant community because our country has a unique spirit of immigration. Our country has been a unique destination for immigration for years and years and years and years. We are the only country in the history of the planet that is a country of immigrants. We're the only country on the history of the planet that is entirely a country of people who wanted to come here. Make it easier. It used to be. That's what I don't get. All of us talking here, we're products of an easier immigration system. All of us talking here, we're products of a system that used to be way easier. I can't even cross the northern border because I had 2 ounces of weed when I was 19. The majority of construction projects are using illegal labor. Yeah, but somebody tried to. Yeah, I know that. But I'm just saying, somebody tried to say that all the complicit politicians, when it comes to the issue of undocumented labor, have been dealt with, and I was like, dude, Trump is like one of the most well-known people to take advantage of that, and he's in the fucking presidency. And you can say, well, he's only complicit because that's just the industry he's in, and it's still complicity. The people. There have been plenty of companies that were only complicit because of the industry that they were in, but they were still complicit. The majority, only if said immigrant wants to become an American, that means learning our culture and assimilating to it. What is our culture? Let me just ask you that. Into Indies. What exactly is our culture? When you couldn't cross the northern border, did they throw you in a detention center that is literally a prison camp? Also worth asking. Back then it was basically, what's your name? Why are you here and for how long? Okay, go right ahead. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Speaking English for starters, you realize a lot of immigrants who came over on Ellis Island didn't speak English, right? You realize that a lot of people who immigrated to America in the early days didn't speak English when they first got here. They had to learn English. There were whole fucking institutions set up all over the Northeast to help people learn English. People from Poland, people from Germany, people from Switzerland, people from Britain, well, not Britain. Maybe they had to have some remedial classes, as it were. But people from fucking France and Norway and fucking Italy and Spain, all these countries that people came here from, all these countries whose poor came here from, a lot of those people didn't speak English when they got here. There was institutions set up all over the Northeast to help them learn English when they got here. We're going to have to give that same grace to Mexicans, I'm sorry, and Hispanic people broadly, meaning Spanish speakers. We're going to have to give that same grace to them. A lot of Mexicans would love to speak better English. A lot of them would love to. There's just not a whole lot of facilities set up for recent immigrants to the United States to do anything but get locked up. Couldn't bother to learn French or Spanish, though. That's colonial attitude if I ever saw it. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. But I'm just like trying to take this person, and like take them issue by issue. Like, if you say English is part of our culture, whatever. I don't really think speaking English is necessarily like intrinsically part of our culture. I think English is the lingua franca of our culture, but I don't think that makes it the only language that you can validly speak as an American. Like, I don't think the fact that I can say, ¿Dónde está el baños? I don't think that makes me less American. I don't think the fact that I can say "Donde está el supermercado" makes me any less American. I don't think the fact that I can say "Hallo, willkommen in Deutschland" makes me any less American. I don't think the fact that I can say Wo ist der Bahnhof makes me any less American. Got some baby back ribs marinating right now. Oh, marinating or brining? Marinating or brining, friend. I'm telling you, if you've been marinating your baby back ribs, you got to try brining them one of these days. If you've already started marinating them, you'll be fine. It's fine. It's chill. But marinades are not my preferred way of handling a baby back rib. I like to brine them. And if I get them from a local butcher, which when I can afford to, I like to, because the quality is always better. I like to brine them in the sack that they come with, because it's always a nice, tough sack, you know. And there's all sorts of good brine recipes you can use. But I'll give you a brine recipe if you want one. Brine, you got me? Ah! A man/woman after my own heart. Yeah, no. I just recently got an electric smoker that I gotta clean up and get a new element in it, and then I'll have an electric smoker, because I've been doing the most hillbilly shit ever to smoke meats for a while. Since I've gotten into it, I've been literally just using one burner on a gas grill with wood pellets and a little tinfoil pack on top of it. And that's my smoker. Does it flame up sometimes? Yup. Does the temperature stay exactly right? Nope. Does it work? Yeah, basically. I mean, I haven't served anybody raw food yet out of it, so. There was something that didn't quite get to a high enough temp on the inside, though, and it was kind of cartilaginous and kind of sinewy and shit. So I never want to do that ever again, which is why I'm so glad I got this electric smoker that I can clean up and fix up and have one that will actually stay the temperature that I set it at. And I looked it up. It's got good reviews and shit, so that's cool. I love that. Yeah. You're talking about countries that have one majority and official language, while the U.S. has no official language, and there's like Spanish-speaking communities, so they don't need to. Yeah, no, dude. If you've never been to New Mexico, it is really a crazy experience. There are whole fucking villages and shit in New Mexico where you can find people who speak a specific Native American language and Spanish, and that's all they speak. They don't speak English. And like, it's mixed Native American and Mexican communities. There's like just independent Mexican communities. There are Native American communities where English is so much a second language that it's not spoken often enough for people to be that fluent in it and shit. Like, there are still some really unique communities in America that represent all sorts of tendencies when it comes to language. But that's the thing. We are a melting pot culture, like somebody's been saying in the chat for a while. We're a melting pot culture. We are where culture comes to fucking make babies. So American culture is Mexican culture. It is French culture. It is British culture. It is German culture. It is Japanese culture. Well, okay, American culture is Japanese culture because Japanese culture is American culture from the 1950s and 60s, but that's another thing. That's aside the point, okay? Okay. I love how you came around and answered the question, what is American culture? Well, that's the thing, is that eventually, you know, I knew I would get it back around to it eventually. What the fuck? Okay. I don't even know much Spanish, so if someone doesn't know much English, I don't think they should be deported is all. Yeah, exactly. If someone loves to weave, let them cook. Yeah, exactly. We have to crack down on illegal immigration. If anything, it's disrespectful to both my grandparents who did it the hard way and raised generations of red-blooded Americans, most of which served. Okay, listen. Your grandparents did not do it the hard way. If they came through at the time I'm talking, between like late 1800s and mid 1950s, that was the easiest time to immigrate in America. That was the easiest time. You had a way easier time immigrating in America way back when. And nowadays it's super fucking hard. It wasn't exactly easy back then, and now it's super fucking hard. You know? I'm not saying it was easy back then, but I'm saying it was easier than it is now, and that's a problem. We need to make it easy again because we have another immigration wave that's happening, and it's going to happen. The fact that Trump even has a to deport, despite the fact that Biden deported something like 10 million undocumented immigrants, proves that this is going to keep happening no matter what we try to do. You know, no matter what we try to do to avoid it, it's going to keep happening. So I'm just saying we need to come up with a better solution. My grandmother didn't speak a word of English. None of her children speak Swiss or German. So, what's your point? So, because your grandmother chose to raise her kids that way, it's valid for everybody else to raise their kids that way? Or that's the way it should be, or what? I'm not sure what you're getting at. Plenty of people in Pennsylvania speak Swiss German. Yeah, 100%. People, not just Pennsylvania and Texas, though. I used to live in Missouri, and there was a wide population of Amish all over Missouri. Mennonites, too. Uh, Iowa has a pretty big population of Amish and Mennonite. Tennessee has a surprisingly big population of Amish and Mennonite. Like, you don't have to go far. Ohio has a big population. Indiana has a pretty decent population. Hell, Illinois has a few fucking Amish communities. So it's just like, we're fine with the Amish, right? We're fine with the Amish. We don't want the Amish to assimilate. Yeah, what is your response to the Amish? I'm curious. I don't know if this person is still, I don't know if they're still arguing with me, but into indies, like, what is your argument against the Amish? Should we force the Amish to assimilate? Because they use English when they're amongst themselves. They speak Pennsylvania Dutch, usually. Some dialect of Old High German, basically. If you fight the Amish, you ain't going to win. I don't want to fight the Amish. I actually think that America needs to make more allowances for intentional communities of the kind that the Amish have, but secular ones. I think that you should be able to enter into an agreement like the Amish have amongst themselves that keeps them bound under a religious doctrine. I think you should be able to do that from a secular direction. It's because she is showing elegance to our country. What? Are you still fucking talking about your grandma? Like, how does that demonstrate elegance? I don't get the point. I think this is just fundamentally a philosophical disagreement between the two of us. I think that America is a country of immigrants that some of which have chosen to give up their language and culture. Others have chosen to bring it here and to keep fucking speaking it. Italian Americans would have a hard time agreeing with you right now. There are lots of Italian immigrants who came over from America, taught their children Italian and English, and learned English themselves and use Italian amongst friends and family. That the same is true of some French populations, like Cajun. Cajun Creole is like a language that it's dying out now, but it's a language of southeastern Louisiana that's basically uh, derived from the Acadian French. They came down from French Canada, basically. So the idea that America is some country represented only by English, I think is just disproven by the wide diaspora of different communities that we've got living in America. I think it's disproven just by a basic knowledge of fucking American civics, but whatever. We can have a philosophical disagreement on that. I don't think it matters that much. Frankly, I think that the answer all ties back to my original answer, which is that, yeah, I think that people that immigrate to America should be able to speak English, not because I think it's emblematic of American culture, but because I think that English is, well, I don't think, I know, English is the lingua franca. It's the default language, in other words, of America. And if you can't speak English, you functionally can't be, you know, like you can't get around in society that well if you can't speak English. But I think that we should be building facilities and programs to help people from Spanish-speaking countries learn English. Only a handful of states list in languages English, and it's not official. There are still services provided in several languages. Oh yeah, dude. So actually, if you go to the Seneca Reservation on New York, which is fucking massive and nice too. If you go to the Seneca Reservation in New York State, the signs, all the street signs, are written in both Seneca and English. And if you go to certain places in New Mexico, you'll see the same sort of tendency happening, where signs will be provided in whatever the local language is and English. Same is true in certain communities in California and Arizona. So, and most states in the union at this point offer basic services in both English and Spanish, because it's assumed that a recent immigrant to America probably isn't going to understand the local language, but it should also be understood that we're going to help them learn it. Because, yeah, I agree that English is the primary language that's used in America. I might not agree that it's emblematic of our country, but I agree that people need to learn it, not because I think that there's any sort of cultural relevance to it necessarily, but because I think that it's fundamental to getting around in America, because it's, like I said, the lingua franca. You're sheltered if you think illegal immigrants understand the English. Oh, man. The English. Man, I don't want to do it to you, but I'm just going to say it. You don't even speak English that well, and you're going to talk shit about people who can't speak it. No, I'm fucking on you a little bit, but for real though, I don't think immigrants can understand English by default, but I do think that a lot of illegal immigrants do want to understand English. I think most people that come to America regularly would like to understand English, and the proof of that is the fact that I'll see them asking people who do understand English better to help them out and to make them more understood. And like Hispanic people that learn to speak English as a second language are always so fucking proud of that fact. So it's like, whatever, dude. I'm of the opinion that the solution to this problem is providing services that allow undocumented immigrants and documented immigrants to learn English easily in this country. I'm of the opinion that that should be something we should provide wide fucking funding and staffing for. But if you disagree, that's fine. Either way, I need to go. I will talk to you guys. Well, okay, I'm not going to go just yet, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I do need to go. It's getting really hot. At the same time, ah, impossible to know. So they have to learn English, but you don't have to learn Spanish. Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Bye, Phoebe, in advance, maybe. Hey, before you go, okay, bro, they've been here 10 years and can't answer a simple question. I have this issue literally on a weekly basis. Well, there's some people that are always going to be fucking stubborn about it, but you just said your grandma couldn't speak a word of English. So your grandma was that frustrating person for a bunch of people in her life, but she gets to be fine with it because she taught her kids to speak English. You get to be fine with her being that way because she taught her kids English, or because she encouraged her kids to learn English and didn't. I don't know. What, did she just not talk in front of them? I don't get it. I have one thing about multi-language as a culture stable. Okay, cool. Why can they live in our society for 10 years like that? It's because they have pockets of Mexico that don't deal with the rest of society. That don't deal with the rest of society outside of like literally working in all of our factories and farms and shit. Like, I don't know what you want. Yeah, like there are pockets of German people that don't interact with society either. They have little emissaries that interact with society, but the rest of the broader culture doesn't. And they stay cloistered within themselves. Should we get rid of those communities? Like, what is your response to the Amish? Why are the Amish fine, but not Mexican communities? We can't have Mexican communities in America, but we can have Amish communities. That's fine. Because the only difference I can think of between the two is the fact that Mexicans are Mexican and Amish people are white. Can you say hola? If hola could help me in everyday life, remember it. I mean, it can help you in everyday life, but only if you're dealing with Hispanic people regularly. If you regularly interact with Hispanic people, it helps you quite a bit. How can an American compete when the competition will do it for less because they don't have to play by the same rules? Oh my God. So once again, the blame is placed on the immigrant, not the corporation, who's willing to fuck over the American worker by letting them be undercut by a second-class citizen. So you're mad not at the corporations that hire people for that, not at the corporations who engage in that kind of behavior and profit off of it, but rather at the undocumented immigrant who is just trying to make money for them and their family. So you're more worried about a regular ass working class person that's just trying to provide for their family. And the only reason you've given me is that they don't speak English. That's the only reason you've given me. You've given me no other reason. Because all I keep hearing are reasons why you are opposed to these people being allowed to live in our country or whatever. But like, you can be a completely legal immigrant and go through and like you can complete the naturalization process and never assimilate. You can learn English and choose not to speak it in your life. You can learn English completely and choose not to speak it. And plenty of people do. There are plenty of naturalized citizens that like don't speak English when they're just amongst family and shit. Like, so this particular thing being an issue of contention just confuses me. They don't pay taxes. You're literally not reading. 75% of my other comment. Well, I can't. You know, you have to understand. I randomly pick comments and shit. 1 second. Okay. I'm going to answer a couple more questions, but then I got to go. I have a question. Do you think black people need to assimilate because black culture is very different from regular American culture? Well, that's the thing. Black culture is American culture. Japanese culture is American culture. German culture is American culture. French culture is American culture. American culture is a melting pot. It's not one monolithic thing. That's why Indy 2 didn't have anything for me when I asked him specifically, what is American culture? That's why the best thing that he's been able to provide to me all night has been speaking English. And I didn't make it a race issue. I pointed out that the only difference I can figure out between the Amish and the Mexicans is the fact that one of them is Mexican and one of them is Amish. I'm not saying that's the difference between them in your head. I'm saying it's the only difference I can puzzle out, and I'm asking you to provide me with information to help me understand. Been remodeling homes for over a decade, but if they can get by without understanding English, well, like, you realize every person that's like that is... I hope that was a fly and not a wasp. That fear, you're not sure, you know? Did I just piss off a wasp? I hope not. I really hope not. Show me one Amish who can't understand English? Oh, okay. But before it didn't matter. Hold on, but that wasn't your argument, though. Because you said something about how there are little pockets of Mexico. But I don't see any difference between there being little pockets of Mexico and there being little pockets of Pennsylvania Deutschland. I don't see any fucking difference, because a lot of these Mexican communities have plenty of people in them that are bilingual. You know how I know? Because they're able to fucking get around in society and do shit. And because I've had conversations with them. I've met people from communities exactly like the ones you're talking about. And I know for a fact that there are bilingual people in those communities. Not all of them. Plenty of them are just monolingual, only speak Spanish, but plenty of them are not. But they choose to speak fucking Spanish when they're at home and everything. Because in these pickets, they don't have to speak English. Yeah, and in those fucking Amish pickets, they don't got to speak fucking English either. The matter of them, what does it even matter if a person speaks, like, what do you care if a person speaks English or Spanish in their own home? What business is that of yours? What business is it of yours if I'm speaking English, German, Spanish, French, Japanese? What the fuck do you care? Like, do I not have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech and expression anymore? Does that not include speaking whatever fucking language we want to? If they had social security numbers, it wouldn't be an issue. Well, that's my thing, is I think that we should fucking modify our system so that you can come to America with a Mexican social security number and, like, be legally hired, and then just, like, go after these fucking employers that are doing this shit, you know, that are hiring people under the table. Go after that shit. Make the system to where they have to fucking hire these people at the same fucking wage that they're hiring regular ass American people. Make it so that they are paying into taxes, and so that they can receive social services when they need them, as they need them. Make it so that they can actually apply for a rental or whatever. Make it so that they can assimilate to American culture. Because I'm not even going to say that there is, like, some rigid idea of American culture, but insofar as American culture exists, A big part of it is being able to navigate this country on an equitable level. And a big part of that is being able to speak English, and a big part of that is going to be educating people, and either way, the answer is not kicking a bunch of people out. Either way, the answer is not discriminating against a bunch of people. If you moved to Mexico, you'd be lost without translation. Yeah, Mexico's different. Mexico can be its own country, can do whatever it wants, but this is America, the land of the free, land of the immigrant, and that's how I see it. Me and you might see it differently, but that's how I see it. I see America as a country of immigrants. I am a mutt that comes from everywhere. I have roots in Blackest Africa and Pakistan. I have roots in Irish in Ireland and in Germany and France and Britain. I have roots all over this great big globe of ours. I'm a mutt too. So yeah, like I'm saying, we come from two wildly different fucking, like, we're products of wildly different cultures, and we are Americans. And don't you see, Okay, anyway, I gotta go. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the conversation. Make sure you guys subscribe and do all that shit, and I will talk to you guys later.